Welcome to Conspiracy Corner Podcast, everyone. This is Abe, your host, with my co-host, Lammy Chillmeister. I ain't gonna lie, man. I'm kind of irritated, and disappointed with, I guess, society in general, YouTube as a company, which YouTube is going to fail. The only reason I believe that it hasn't failed is, it's August 31st, 2024. I always try to say the date just so, because I put out on multiple platforms. Speak of the devil. And I upload a lot of like old stuff, so I want to avoid comment section of, I can't believe you're talking about this. This happened like a year ago or a month ago or weeks ago. Like, well, yeah, it's old videos, man. Some of the episodes are timeless, you know. But it just helps avoid that. So usually while I sit here and eat lunch, dinner, more like, I'll watch like just random shit. And I'm guilty of it. Just out of curiosity, I subscribed to Chris Chan. And his most recent video, he got a silver button from YouTube. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I don't know. It's just one of those moments, like, as a content creator who's been podcasting for 4 years now. Before I was podcasting, I was doing ghost hunting videos, book reviews, all sorts of videos and stuff. Like, I've been content creating for about 7 years, I believe. And just to see Chris Chan get a silver button, and I can, like, never break past 500 subscribers is just kind of like, what is the meaning of life, you know? Which honestly, man, I'm not like infuriated. It's just, it does put you down, man. And I understand it's part of the game, you know. Because I get comments, you know, of people like, hey, the content you put out is great, you know. I do get uplifting comments and stuff. And it is a podcast, so it's not like, podcasts aren't huge on YouTube. I mean, YouTube's a video platform, you know. I love podcasting. But I mean, I grew up on like talk radio and shit. But it's just, it made me sad, man. It's like, so you have sex with your mother. You get thrown in jail for that. By the way, it's an old woman who doesn't even know what's going on. She's literally got like dementia. And you get rewarded for it. With a silver play button. Like, I don't know. It means nothing to me that if I got a silver play button, but at the same time, it would be cool to get one. Do you know what I mean? Like, after 7 years, it would be nice to be like, oh, look at that, you know? But I guess it kind of reminds me of, your kingdom is not on this earth. I believe in the Bible it says, like, if you're doing right, as weird as it sounds, like, you will actually go through more suffering in life when you're doing right and you're on the right path. And it reminds you that your kingdom is not on this earth, it's in the next, you know. But it's just irritating, man. And it kind of tells you the state of society of, like, I don't know, man. I've been keeping up with this Wade Wilson shit. Have you all been keeping up with it? It's like this dude who strangled and murdered 2 women on a killing spree down in Florida. He's got a swastika tattoo on the side of his head, swastika tattoo here, stitches, like a skeleton smile tattooed into his face. And like women are just obsessed with him. Like he has like a fan club, and this actually relates to what we're getting into today. I just had to go on this little rant and vent a little bit. But like after keeping up with this Wade Wilson shit, because it's one of these rabbit holes, I like true crime, which is what we're covering today. Just keeping up with that and keeping up with the Chris Chan rabbit hole. Because yes, I'm a conspiracy theorist. I don't cover Chris Chan. I've never covered Wade Wilson. I would like to one day. Just because I do cover true crime on this channel. But yeah, like when I'm not podcasting, when I'm not working or listening to conspiracy podcasts, like I make sure to blue pill when I get home from work, because I don't want to get all revved up before I go to sleep and shit. Whenever I get off work, I make sure to blue pill, and I tell conspiracy theorists, dude, you guys have got to blue pill. You can't red pill 24/7, like otherwise you will go insane and turn into Alex Jones. But I don't know, man, just like every day, like I just lose a little more hope in humanity, man. You got like TikTokers wanting another lockdown, you got women worshiping Wade Wilson, you got Chris Chan earning a silver play button. I'm like, God, get me out of here. I almost wish that the rapture is real. Because, not that I would be taking a part of it, but maybe alien abduction. Like, abduct me and take me to, like, Nibiru or fucking Serpo or something. Get me out of here, aliens. I can't handle Earth anymore. It's ridiculous. We worship the wrong people. We celebrate the wrong things. We live in fucking Babylon. But I don't know, that just was discouraging to me, him getting a silver play button. And it's like, dude, you fucked your grandma. Like, I don't know. I just think we reward the wrong people, man. Let's get on with the show, though. Sorry about that little rant. I just now seen it, and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, I don't know. And I mean, I'm not trying to be petty. I'm not trying to be jealous, but I'm not gonna lie. I'm an open book. I'm honest. Like, there is a jealousy part of me. Like, why does he get a silver play button? You know? I've podcast all the fucking time. Podcast every day. Try to get good info out there. Try to be entertaining. Like, I don't know. It's just, ooh. Maybe I should fuck my grandma. I'm just kidding. Alright, we'll get on with the show, though. So, I found this new podcast a while back. Not too long ago. I'm a new subscriber to them. It's called Mind Shock. And it's pretty good shit, man. They put out good content. And yesterday they had a podcast about true crime. And it wasn't covering a serial killer or anything like that. It was covering basically the concept in general. And it was extremely entertaining, extremely philosophical. And I've dabbled in the question, like last podcast on the left, they always have a rhetorical question of why true crime now? You know, and it has gotten popular. Now, this isn't the first wave of true crime. True crime has had waves here and there, like the 70s was a big wave of true crime. 1888, when Jack the Ripper, he was honestly the first serial killer to get like super big publicity, you know, because they had newspapers and shit. He was the first publicized like serial killer. So there is waves of true crime, but here lately it has become super popular, especially with women. And I'm not bashing women. I love true crime. So this is coming from my perspective. I love true crime. I'm a consumer of it, and I put it out there. We've done a lot of true crime on this channel, podcast episodes, so go check them out. We covered the Raincoat Killer, Eileen Wuornos, Charles Manson, Sid and Nancy. We covered Jack the Ripper. We have a series on. Yeah, we've covered quite a bit of true crime on this channel. We've covered a bunch of different female serial killers from like way back in the day. And some Western true crime, like outlaws, cowboys, outlaw cowgirls. So go check out my true crime episodes, man, if that's what you're into. Which I imagine you would be if you clicked on this episode. But I guess, honestly, true crime, I like it because I am the type of person, like a car wreck. And I believe it's natural with us. Like, we know we shouldn't look, but we look anyways when you're driving past a car wreck. And honestly, the negative itself is entertaining. With any story, you have to have friction and negativity for the story to be good. That's just the way it is. Imagine if I literally told a story of like, yeah, I woke up today and I went to the mall and went jogging and mowed the lawn, and just what if I just told you a boring story of how my day went, and there was no conflict whatsoever? It wouldn't be entertaining. You have to have conflict. It just is what it is. People want violence. They want a villain. They want something scary. They want a problem. But I've always said, man, because there's a big trending of, yes, there's a huge trend of true crime being super popular, but there's also the opposite of true crime being anti-true crime. Like, I love them to death, and I don't agree with them 100% on everything, but Sam Tripoli is one of these people who I would say is kind of anti-true crime. Which he has admitted that he likes true crime. It's a guilty pleasure. He was watching a show called The First 48 back in the day. He used to be hooked on it. And he said he got sad one time because it was taking so long for another season. He's like, when's the new season coming out? And then he stopped and thought about it, and he's like, oh shit, I shouldn't be wishing for that, because now I'm wishing for like people to get harmed and murdered and raped and kidnapped and shit. And he's like, I shouldn't be wishing for that. But if you call yourself a conspiracy theorist, and if you are a conspiracy theorist, I'm sorry, dude, you're not gonna get the entire puzzle if you don't delve into true crime. You got like cases like Charles Manson being a CIA asset. Eileen Wuornos, possibly the government used her to kill, men who were into the prostitution scene. Basically cleaning the streets. You have, yeah, dude, like, sorry, fucking Son of Sam possibly being connected to, like, Satanism and shit, like, satanic cults and shit. The Finders cult. They say that John Wayne Gacy was part of a ring. Like, there's all sorts of conspiracy theories that you're gonna miss out on with huge connections to true crime if you're not delving into true crime. And I mean, there's a lot of people who say, oh, I'm red pilled, I do my research. Well, sorry, your research is gonna have to get into true crime whether you like it or not. So, I don't know, I just think about things like that. I'm trying to hit on the main points and keep it around 30 minutes because I know people's attention spans are short. If it goes over, it goes over. I got a lot I want to talk about. Psyop Cinema, shout out to them. Go sub to them, tell them who sent you. Maybe they'll give me a shout out. They have this theory that they propose that every horror movie is a psyop. And I kind of agree with it. And Eddie Bravo has the same theory. He's talked about it on his podcast. Look into it. Shout out to them. And it kind of makes sense that the government would do it. So, like, back in the day, we all know Hollywood, you know, Jordan Maxwell. And we know that it's the propaganda arm of the government. It always has been. But they've actually done experiments. They were having trouble getting their soldiers, the military, to shoot and kill other enemies, adversaries. So what they started doing was having movie nights as a treat to the soldiers. Anytime the government is giving you a treat, you should be wary. But the movies they would play would be like westerns, army movies, mobster movies, true crime movies. And the reason they did that was they wanted to desensitize the soldiers to get used to shooting people. And it actually worked. They, after doing this, after showing them films of like shooting, gun violence, they noticed that the soldiers, it was easier for them to shoot enemies and stuff. And they actually got with Hollywood and was like, we need more westerns, we need more true crime movies, we need more mobster movies. They started putting gun violence more in movies. So I do believe that movies are definitely psyops. Now, the whole horror psyop, I agree with also, man. I think that every horror movie is a small psyop within itself. And I told my wife this theory, and she's like, I don't know about that. That's a little too crazy. And I'm like, okay, give me a movie. Jaws. Okay, the psyop of Jaws ties in with the Great Reset. They want us all on house arrest. They want us all to not leave our homes. What's the best way to get you to not leave your home? To make you afraid of everything. Jaws. The psyop would be afraid of the beach. I ain't gonna lie, as someone who was born and raised in Florida and grew up on the movie Jaws, I was terrified in the water. I mean, I still went swimming, still went boogie boarding, but every little thing that would touch my foot, I'd freak the fuck out. My daughter, one of her favorite movies was Jaws, and when I ain't gonna lie, I showed it to her like way too early. And she was kind of freaked out to take baths and shit. And I'm like, honey, like, there's no way a shark's gonna come up through the pipe and get you. Like, my bad. I admit I was not a good father, you know. And it happened to me once. I remember we were at the beach, Clearwater Beach, down in Florida. And there was a woman on a floaty, and there was a dolphin swimming. And dolphin goes like this in the water, shark goes like this. And some like foreigner, I don't know, it doesn't matter what race he was, but he was like, shark, shark, everybody get out of the water, you know. And dude, me and my brothers fucking booked it. We heard shark, we just booked it. We were the first ones out. And my parents were laughing. They're like, dude, you could tell you guys grew up on Jaws. And I was like, it never clicked then, but it's like, yeah, it's a fucking psyop, dude. But they want us in a fight or flight point. They want us in fight or flight all the time. Makes you easier to control, and it makes you more reactionary, and it makes you more compulsory to where you're not actually thinking about things. You're just acting on instinct, which is not good. But yeah, it was a fucking dolphin. But I mean, you can do it with any movie. Arachnophobia, make you terrified of spiders. Buy more bug spray. You know, like it's all psyops, dude. It could all be psyops. I kind of agree with it. Doesn't mean that I'm not gonna watch it. So I like to use psyops against them. And one of the ways that I like using psyops against them is don't look at it as brainwashing. Look at it as like a lesson, a warning to be more careful. Be more careful in the water. Don't be terrified. Don't be paranoid to go to the beach, but just be careful. True crime is a good lesson. You know, I've noticed that listening to true crime has made me more careful. Especially like certain people, man. I mean, there's rich people. Oh, my fan died. I gotta charge it. There's rich people who grew up with privilege and never have been to the ghetto, never have been in bad parts of town. You know, I think true crime is honestly a good thing in that aspect of like teaching you of like pampered people of like, hey, there's some darkness out there. Don't forget and be careful. Boogeyman can get you. And it kind of reminds me like we were talking about psyops. We actually do psyops on our own children, and we've done psyops on our own children for hundreds of years. And you'll go, well, how's that, Abe? Urban legends. And the whole point of urban legends was towns, like kids back in the day. I was a 90s kid, so I was pretty lucky. Like we were allowed to, I wasn't able to till I was older, like after 12, 13, like preteen to teenager. But I was allowed to roam the streets pretty much every day when I got off school, as long as I told my parents what area I was going to be in. I couldn't just up and leave. I had to tell them, hey, I'm leaving, I'm going out. But every single day when I would get off school, I would skateboard until the sun went down for hours. And I would be four or 5 blocks away, you know. But we were told, I wasn't really told urban legends. My mom was into true crime, and everything she told me was like true stories, you know. But you know, back in like the olden times, they would tell their children urban legends of like, you need to be home before sundown or the Scarecrow Man will get you. The Scarecrow Man? Who the fuck's the Scarecrow Man? Well, obviously you wouldn't say that to your mom. Who the fuck? But who's the Scarecrow Man, you know? The child would ask, and you'd be like, oh, the Scarecrow in Farmer John's field? He comes to life when the sun goes down. And you know that scythe that Farmer John has hanging up in the barn? He cuts little children's heads off, you know? And I mean, it is what it is. It's kind of fucked up thing to tell your kid, but it makes your kid listen, you know? So you could look at it as a positive psyop. You could look at it as a negative psyop. I grew up with a mom who loved true crime, and it actually instilled in me in an early age for me to be interested in true crime and the macabre and horror, you know? Because I remember being like a little kid, like before kindergarten, and her watching true crime documentaries on TV. And I'll never forget, man, there's a story, my mom, she's like, she had like the 80s hair with the big poof, you know, and she would take a curling iron and curl her hair. And I loved my mom. I was a mama's boy. So I was sitting there watching her do her hair one time, chilling with her. And she said, you know why I tell you kids to stay close to me while we're in the store, right? And I go, because you don't want someone to get me, you know? And she's like, yep. Do you know what they'll do if they get you? And I was like, what? And she's like, see this curling iron? They'll kidnap you, chain you up, and they'll stick this in your butthole. And I mean, it's a real fucked up thing to say to a kid, but I learned a lesson to stick close to my mom. Like, we didn't run off. We stayed close to our parents. And like, other parents would be in Walmart like, oh my God, your kids are like little ducklings. They just stay right on your hind end, you know? And she's like, yeah, I raised them right. I don't see it as something fucked up. It kept me real careful, you know? But yeah, we do psyops on our own children. So I don't think psyops are always bad. Now if it's the US government doing the psyop, then it's probably bad. But we do psyops on our own children, you know. So here's a good point to make. Is it trashy? Is it in poor taste? I do true crime, so obviously I don't think it's trashy. I think the way you do it can be in poor taste. Bailey Sarian has gotten a lot of hate for it because she makes jokes and she does her makeup the entire time while talking about true crime and shit. This kind of gets into the responsibility of people, though. And I already know comment section people are going to be like, oh, are you victim shaming? I guess that would be the term for it. But, okay. If my wife was raped and murdered and kidnapped, it is my responsibility as an adult to either look up that shit or ignore it and avoid it. Now, it would suck because it would be on the front pages of newspapers. It might make it to tabloids. But there is a part of me that wonders, like, how many of these, like, relatives of victims are actually going out and seeking this stuff out. And it's like opening Pandora's box. Like, me and my brother were talking about it in general. Like, I talked about it. I had 5 million views. Someone else took my content and put it out there on TikTok without giving me a shout out, which was a dick move. And my brother said, yeah, don't check it out. And I'm like, I'm not on TikTok, first of all. And I said, second off, like, most of the time, like, where I'm a smaller channel, I still check my comment section. But if I ever get past like 1,000 subs, like, I ain't gonna lie, I'll probably stop checking the comment sections. Because it's like, I take Joe Rogan's advice, like, it's just toxicity. If my channel ever blew up, I probably would stop looking at the comment section. Because deep down inside, I'm a sensitive guy. But he was like, dude, they were tearing you up in that dude's comment section. Just calling me a burnout, calling me a hillbilly because of my accent. Apparently I didn't pronounce the word munchkin correctly. Just making fun of me and shit. And I'm like, yeah, I don't need that in my life. I'm not going to look at it, you know. But I do think that family members of the victims have to be like, okay, I'm an adult. I did a whole episode on it. You have to take control of what you consume. It's called Put Your Big Girl Panties On. So go check out that podcast episode. I did a whole episode on it. Of how, as adults, we have to take responsibility for what we consume as far as media. we have to put our big girl panties on. And it gets down to the question of when is it too soon also. Like, I've covered a lot of old true crime, like female serial killers. I have like multiple episodes on that. Jack the Ripper, I did like 5 or 6 episodes, a whole series of podcasts on Jack the Ripper. I don't see any problem with that. Like, if I found out my great aunt was killed by Jack the Ripper, I'm not gonna lie, as a ex-horror punk singer and someone who is into the macabre and horror and stuff, like, I would honestly just be like, oh, that's cool as fuck, dude. My great aunt, for one, she was a prostitute and she got murdered by the Ripper. Like, fuck yeah, dude. But I'm a different type of dude. And I would definitely tell people that too. Like, did you know I found out my, great times 10 aunt was murdered by Jack the Ripper? Like, yeah, I'd be bragging about that shit. That's fucking dope. Sorry it happened to you, auntie, but I'm a weird guy like that. And like I said, I used to be a horror punk singer, so I don't have an issue with it. But we do have to look at both sides of the coin, man. Like, I think there's nothing wrong with comedy in true crime. I love comedy and podcast in general. Basically, everyone I listen to is pretty much a comedian covering conspiracy and true crime. One of my favorite podcasts is Last Podcast on the Left. And they've always said that, like, look, we do comedy in true crime because we believe that we are defanging the criminal, the monster. We're making light of it because when you are covering dark shit, like, it is good to have that comedic relief. Better to laugh than to cry. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you guys think that true crime is just poor taste in general? Because I'm, as someone who is a huge history buff and I have a passion for history, like, there's schools and shit that are trying to ban teaching World War II. And I think that we should learn history because true crime is history, so we don't repeat it. That is literally the point of history, is to learn these things so we don't repeat it. And I don't know. I think that true crime should not be banned, for one. I think that it should be covered for historical preservation. The only advice that I would give to people is, like, if you are producing true crime content, like, there's nothing wrong with jokes here and there, but just try to be as respectful as you can. But at the same time, be you, boo-boo, because I've had people, and I use my wife as a litmus test. I've had people hate on me about certain things, and I show my wife the messages, and I'm like, am I in the wrong here? And she's a very level person, man. She's on the fucking level, and she'll tell me, no, you're not in the wrong. Or, you're kind of in the wrong on this one, She's very honest, like, and she's not the type of wife to be like, my husband is always right no matter what. I will stand up for him no matter what. No, if I'm wrong, she'll let me know. Which is why I married her. She's very level-headed, man. I don't know. What's y'all's opinion on true crime in general? Hit me up in the comments. It helps engage for the video algorithm. Plus, this is definitely an episode that I feel like engagement is needed. And this is an episode I've been wanting to do for a while. Just talk about true crime in general. But I hope y'all enjoyed. Please like, share, and subscribe, and hit me up in the comments.